Thank you for those people who have registered to join the meeting tonight. Just before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and pay my respect to their ancestors and spirits, past and present. I would also like to acknowledge and pay my respect to any Aboriginal persons joining us today. My name is Duncan Mitchell. I'm the Director of Engineering and Property Services here at North Sydney Council, and with me tonight I have Lindsay Menday, our Sustainable Transport Manager. And the purpose of tonight's information session is to explain the key aspects of this project and provide everyone with the opportunity to learn and ask questions. Just housekeeping wise, just so you understand, this session is being recorded and will be made available on Council's website. So once we've completed tonight's session, the recording, also all of the questions and answers to the questions will be uploaded to that website as well. I just ask before we go into the presentation, which will take about 10-15 minutes, that all participant microphones be muted throughout the session. And as I said, once we finish this presentation, we will take questions and answers. We have a number of questions that have been submitted already, and we'll get through those at the end of the presentation. So now I'm going to hand over to Lindsay Menday, and he's going to talk through and walk through this PowerPoint presentation tonight.
Thank you, Duncan, and thank you everyone for joining the session. I will briefly run through some slides showing some key project features, and following that there'll be an opportunity for some Q&A. An important thing with the design that we're going to show you tonight that is not final, it's a detailed concept and it can be amended in response to matters raised during the consultation period. And in terms of where the project will head from here and after the consultation period, so the feedback received during consultation will be reported to Council likely at the June 28 meeting. And from there, Council may resolve a number of ways, possibly to proceed with the project, to amend, to go ahead with some parts but not all, and potentially to not proceed. So there are options that the Council may explore at that time. Also on this slide, I have a map of the project area. So where we're talking about is, so this is Sutherland Street here. This is the Neutral Bay Village. So this is Grosvenor Street. So those of you who know the area well, that's the roundabout at Grosvenor Street. And then this comes down here, Belgrove Street, the main road through there. And then down along Young to, this is Sutherland Street, the extent of the project. Again, those of you that know the area will know that this is where the project would tie into the existing cycle path that's built there. The key aims of this project are, in essence, to improve the walking network, to improve the cycling network, and to improve on streetscape quality. And that would propose to be done through measures to reduce car speeds, through improved pedestrian facilities, by increasing the separation between people walking and people cycling in the area, by providing some bike facilities that are accessible to more people. So those people that don't currently feel able to ride on busy roads, and also by expanding footpath areas and providing more landscaping. And a parallel aim with the project has been to ensure that those things are done while minimising as far as possible the impact on existing road users and other transport modes and parking. So I can now run through the key features of the project. So number one, and I'm hoping people can see the cursor on the screen. The first thing proposed under the project is to install new pedestrian crossing legs or crossing points at this intersection here between Young and Belgrave. So these are, in essence, a standard safety requirement at signals, but missing at this intersection. So we'd be looking to resolve that omission as part of this project. The second feature would be a raised pedestrian crossing over Sutherland Street. So that would be built on a speed hump at footpath level. The third thing is the continuation of the existing Young Street cycle path. So the existing sections go up Sutherland Street here and down Young Street, and the intent there is to provide a connection that people can use to ride to Neutral Bay Village. An outcome of that is that the traffic lanes or the travel lanes on Young Street are narrowed. In other locations where this has happened, it has reduced traffic speeds, but the other effect of that is that it reduces the space available to exit parked cars. Now, undertaking these works would require the removal of 7 car spaces on Young Street, and that is required to facilitate the traffic signal update. So that's further discussed when I get to the next slide. And the other feature is new landscaping along the project corridor. So a key part of this project is that the installation of the pedestrian crossings on Young Street will impact parking near the intersection. So in addition to the 7 spaces removed on Young Street, the clearways on Belgrave Street, which currently run in either the AM or PM peak, will run in both the AM and PM. Now, the reason this is required is that the pedestrian crossing takes the green time away from vehicle movements. And to offset this, we need to add more storage space at the intersection. If we were to not do this, the vehicle queues during peak periods would be long enough that they would cause the network in this area to fail. To put that in other words, we cannot install the pedestrian crossing phase without these impacts to parking. We can have the pedestrian crossing or the parking, we cannot do both. In designing this, we have put in the shortest possible no stopping distances on Young Street that we can do under current guidelines. So what's there existing doesn't meet current guidelines. If we're to upgrade the intersection, it needs to be consistent, and we minimise that as much as possible. So here's an image, in essence, of Young Street as it is, looking towards the Neutral Bay Village. And here's a visualisation of what Young Street would look like with the project. So I'll use the cursor here. These are the pedestrian crossing points that are currently missing there and through here, and that would be installed as part of these works. And obviously the bit with the person riding is the new cycle path. And included this in the presentation to provide some context around cycling. It's a map that gives an idea of latent demand for cycling in North Sydney. So it's the people who don't currently ride their bike around fears around safety or difficulty in riding on busy roads that might do if separated paths are provided. And this data is based on behavioural change patterns that have been observed in other places where bike lanes have been installed. So we know there's high potential demand across all of North Sydney. The darker areas are the bit where it's highest. We're at times asked why separated paths are proposed around cycling. This diagram's been put in here to provide some context around that. So there's research done by the state government that tells us somewhere between 3 and 20% of people are willing to ride on the road, depending on the conditions. But there's a group, another group there highlighted in the red box of 48% of the community who would consider riding for transport. So that's not for recreation, but for day-to-day trips, so to the cafe or to work or to the library, etc., if they were separated from traffic. So the intent in providing separated paths is not necessarily around the needs of current cyclists, but around enabling more people within the community that opportunity to ride. And these are some images around other lanes in Sydney, and that's that group of people, that 48% of people who are likely uncomfortable riding on the road using some of our other paths. And this is some data from one of our other paths. When we installed the Ernest Street cycle path, we've had usage slowly growing from 3,000 to 4,000 per month. And this is a direct connection through to the works proposed on Yonge Street. So this slide is a table of the anticipated improvements and impacts. It's very similar to the one that would be in the letter that you would likely have received about the project. Generally, the improvements for this project are the improved pedestrian safety at Belgrave Street, achieved through installing that missing pedestrian leg at the intersection, and of course easier and safer walking and cycling connections. We always have trade-offs when we retrofit this type of infrastructure in existing settings, and in this case it's the narrowed vehicle lanes and the loss of both the permanent and part-time peak hour parking. In terms of where the project goes from here, the consultation runs until June 7, and then that feedback will be reported to the June 28 council meeting. And if there's community support for the project and council resolves to proceed, it would likely be constructed from October 2021. And this project would, if constructed, be around 75 to 80% funded by Transport for New South Wales under their active transport grants program. So that concludes the presentation slides. So we're able to begin with the Q&A now. I think we have some pre-registered questions which we can address first.
Yeah, so thanks Lindsay for that. As Lindsay said, we're only in the consultation phase at this stage of the project. So, you know, the design is not finalised. The design has to have the support of the community, which is what council's resolved on for this project to proceed. And we would like to hear from you either in writing or online in your submissions to council, which is, as the dates there are the 7th of June. So please, if you want to put a submission in, please do that before the 7th of June. So we have a couple of written questions here, and then any chat room questions that have come through, we're going to get printouts of those and try and answer those as best we can. So back to you, Lindsay.
So the first question we have asks if the cycleway will extend north and south to form part of the regional network. This particular project is in essence part of our local network, but it would be connected to the parts of our network that connect into the regional network. I'd be happy to, after this, share in the follow-up notes some snippets from our cycling strategy, which will show how this forms part of the broader network. There's a question here about how long the work would take, what times it would be undertaken, and how noisy it would be. The last project, it would be significantly faster than the last project that was conducted in this area. There's a different technique that we're now using for the cycleway construction, which doesn't involve us removing whole sections of the road, but rather fitting the concrete at surface level. So we'd be anticipating around 6 weeks for the full project. Although it's possible that the traffic signal works would happen separately, and they would take around 2 weeks. So 6 to 8 weeks. And the construction hours would be standard. I'm not entirely sure what they are off the top of my head, so it might be something that I take on notice and add to the follow-up notes on this. They were the only 2 pre-questions, so we can go to the ones that have been put into the chat.
Yeah, we're just printing those off, so just bear with us.
Go back to the plan, so that there's the image, and then I can go back to the plan so that we have a reference.
Okay. So we've got a question coming here from the online, and I'll just give that to Lindsay, who'll answer this one.
This is the one asking again how the project will fit within the wider cycleway network. I've given some brief context around that, but our regional connection to Mossman is out this way off this part of the project here. And it's not on a separate cycleway, but it takes place on road because the roads get below the necessary volume where it becomes safer to ride on road. And then the connection running in this direction, if you can see the cursor, will connect people to the Neutral Bay Village. So that's to get people up there to go to the cafe or to meet friends or to jump on the V line. And then at this section here, if we head that way, there's already an established cycle path that will connect you to Ernest Street, which is due to be shortly extended a little bit, and is part of Ernest Street is I guess a meeting point of a number of routes that are identified on the state government regional network.
So I think Lindsay as he made it clear that there is a broader network, but a lot of our cycleways in our cycleway program are for local connections and trying to make cycling more accessible for all people of all abilities in terms of cycling to simply access their local destinations. So this is one of those key routes that can bring people or give people an alternative transport option just simply to get to their local destination.
We have a question regarding the impact on traffic flow on Young Street. I can, in the follow-up, provide some fairly detailed information around this. The way we evaluate that is to take traffic counts at the intersection of the current situation, and then we can also project how that will grow over time. And then we put that into a computer model that analyses how the intersection will work. And what we've got from that is results that the intersection is currently running at what they call a level C. So it's a rating out of A, B, C, D, and E and F. So F is a fail. Anything above D is satisfactory operation. So it's currently running at a C, and after these works, it would still be running at a C. Because we're modernising the intersection and bringing it up to contemporary standards, we get a little bit more efficiency out of it via those changes. So even though we're adding the pedestrian leg to it, or the pedestrian phase to it where you can cross, we still get a similar level of traffic congestion or traffic flow.
So folks, if there are any more questions at this stage, it doesn't look like it. we are happy, as we've said before, we'll put the answers to both the written and the online questions that we've received tonight on the online forum response. And also, I'll reiterate again that you can access and view this presentation and this video on the online forum as well. But please, I encourage you also to put in a submission about this project, and submissions will close on the 7th of June. I'm pretty sure that's when they'll close. So obviously we've got a few more. This will be the only online information session forum about this, but I'm not sure if we're presenting, Lindsay, to any precincts or anything beyond that at this stage.
But potentially.
Yeah, and obviously the information is all online as well about this project. So look, I don't think I'm getting a signal here that there aren't any more online questions that are coming through the chat room. So I'd like to thank everybody for their participation tonight, and thank everyone for registering tonight. And I'd also like to thank Lindsay for presenting and being able to answer questions tonight. So thanks everyone for your attendance, and I hope that we hear from you sometime between now and the 7th of June. Thank you.